Hello, my name is Ian Coppinger. I'm an Irish comedian. I first started doing comedy as part of a double act. We were called Fat Man's Picnic Basket, and we did our first ever show in school at the age of 16. And I think our second gig was at the age of 18. At the age of 20, we finally decided we would go to a comedy club and start taking it a little bit more seriously. And then I also set up an improv troupe back in 1992 in Dublin in the International Bar, which is still going today. And I started doing stand-up around about 1993. I've always done comedy. I did have a job in a shipping company, but I was doing comedy by night. I've only ever had one job. And then I'd do comedy by night. I got to a stage then where I was making probably more money doing the comedy than I was in the job, so I left. The best part about being a comedian has to be the travel. I've performed in over 40 countries. I've seen some amazing things, stayed in some amazing hotels, stayed in some terrible hotels, died in my arse in some spectacular places. But I just love traveling. I've seen the world. I've met some amazing, very interesting people, and yeah. And when you're 5'2", airline travel isn't that bad. My first ever gig was in school, so there was a Christmas show at the school, and we jumped up and did that. But I really consider my start in comedy was in a place called the International Bar in Dublin. There was a gig there called the Comedy Cellar, and we went in and just saw some amazing comedians. It's at the place where some famous comedians that come out of there. From Ardal O'Hanlon used to run it, and Ardal is Father Dougal in Father Ted. So he ran the Diary, so he used to give me my first ever gigs. And then the likes of Dylan Moran, from Black Books, and Tommy Tiernan is a very famous Irish comedian. We were all in there in around about the same time doing stuff. So we were all very young, didn't know how to do it. There was no courses or anything. We pretty much just made up everything ourselves. I think I was doing a college gig once in Dublin, and it was just so badly organised that they didn't close down the pool tables, and so there were people just playing pool around us, and we were trying to do a double act, and we were doing quite subtle, clever stuff, and this guy just walked up and had a microphone like this, and he just took it off me, unplugged it, threw it on the ground, and walked away and played pool again. And at that point we both said, right, I think we're finished. Some of my favourite comedians would probably be people that you don't know. They're not famous, because I think sometimes fame dilutes talent. And so the likes of, Tommy Tiernan, who I mentioned earlier, Dylan Moran is brilliant, but Tom Stade is an amazing Canadian comedian. Glenn Wool is also an amazing Canadian comedian. So somewhere amongst them, they're just astonishing. They blow my. They're the sort of people I look at, and I'm encouraged to do comedy when I see them, but they also make me want to give up because they're so good that I kind of think it's pointless me doing it. The highlight of my career, it's kind of weird because I slipped into a bit of acting through comedy. We did a production of 12 Angry Men, and it was all comedians, and we did that at the Edinburgh Festival. And then we actually came over to Australia. We did it in Perth, Adelaide, and also we went to New Zealand and we did it in Wellington. And so that was just an amazing time. And the following year then we did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and that actually ended up going to the West End. So it starred Christian Slater as Mac Murphy, and Christian you'll know from various films, and Mr. Robot. So yeah, that was one of the highlights. And then the year after that we did The Odd Couple, and that was Bill Bailey and Alan Davis, where The Odd Couple, and then there's 4 poker players and 2 women. So again, just hanging out with your mates at the Edinburgh Festival, just having the best time of your life. Comedy has changed dramatically over the years, particularly in Ireland, because it's all based on political correctness. That's where comedy finds it's funny or is found out, because sometimes people will say stuff that just isn't right to say. And I think the most amazing thing that I've noticed over 25 years of doing comedy is stuff that I used to even say then is unacceptable now. And you've got to change personally, society has changed, so you've got to reflect that within what you're writing and what you're saying. Because, we look back now at the 1970s and, the racist humour that would have appeared and just being considered normal on television is completely unacceptable now. And I'm very sure that in 40 years' time, 50 years' time, we'll look back at what we're doing now and wonder how we ever got away with that. And the fact that it's just normal now is it's kind of fascinating to me, because what's going to happen? Where do we go? What do we change? don't do comedy. That's my advice to everybody, because I need the gigs, and if you're coming in, then I'm getting less gigs. No, anyone who's genuinely, just go and try it. It's a very liberating thing to do. It's great fun. You have great crack. One of the main things I do is I improvise a lot. So I'm in a couple of improv troupes, one in Dublin in the International Bar where I started out, and another one with these 3 English guys. And 2 of them were on the original cast of Whose Line Is It Anyway? So I travel around the world with them, and that is probably the best fun you'll ever have, just with your mates on stage, making it up, getting paid for it, staying in amazing hotels, having such a laugh. And so if you can achieve that, not everyone's going to get to that, but just getting up on stage is it's a very liberating thing. I fly home on Monday, I arrive back in Dublin on Tuesday, and on Thursday I'm in a place called the Laughter Lounge in Dublin. I'll be doing 3 shows there. And then, next year the diary's already filled up until July. So, and every year I go to the Glastonbury Festival. I do an improv show at the Glastonbury Festival. I'm already looking forward to that. It's great fun every year. So, I just sit down and map out my diary from year to year, and it's just great. Well, thank you very much for watching. As I say, my name is Ian Coppinger. I'm actually going to be back in Brisbane in February, I think it is, late February, early March. There's a festival going on there. I'm going to be back here, so hopefully you can come along to that. I listen to podcasts, and you should too as well. Some of them are really good. And I don't do social media very well, but if you do ever drop me a line, I will get back to you. Or you can write me a letter. That's really the best thing, and you just address it to Ian in Dublin in Ireland, because there's very few of us over there, and I'll get it.